We are talking The North Witch. This is directed by Bruce Wemple and written by Anna Shields. Anna Shields actually stars in the movie as well. Now, Bruce Wemple and Anna Shields have actually teamed up before, and I've reviewed some of their movies. This one actually reminds me a little bit of one of their previous efforts called Monstrous. Now, The North Witch, what's it about? It focuses on 5 women who are going on a trek in the Barrens in Canada, I believe, and the idea being is they're trying to find this mythical Barrens cabin, which is kind of like a urban legend, so to speak, and apparently this cabin appears and disappears and is never in the kind of the same place and things, and variety of people have gone missing. So these group of women go out in the woods, decide to camp up one night, and a big storm comes, and seemingly some of the women are just disappeared in this storm. We have 2 of the 5 women end up in the said cabin. However, it seems to be some type of cabin that has an influence, as it's turning these women somewhat kind of crazy, you might say, and having an influence on them in maybe different ways. And then effectively the movie is, the majority of it is these 2 women dealing with the kind of the paranormal situation that appears to be unfolding. What will happen? What happened to the previous women? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So why do I say this movie is a little bit like Monstrous? So Monstrous was a Bigfoot movie that really didn't have the Bigfoot as the kind of the A storyline, and this is kind of a movie which, you know, we're led to believe is about this witch or kind of a cabin which might have mystical powers, but it's more like sort of cabin fever, really. It's a movie about sort of cabin fever. There is a supernatural element to it, but effectively it's a character movie dealing with these 2 women and their relationship and how they are kind of each broken down. So there it is. Alright, so what works in this movie's favour? I think, for example, one of the key points I would say is this is not a film that you know, is slow in regards to setting up the premise. We get our 2 women in the cabin pretty quickly. It doesn't waste too much time in that kind of setting up that situation, and the actual storm sequence is pretty good, and then it seems like a crazy supernatural storm, and it's a good sequence. And then when we have our the bulk of the film is in the cabin with these 2 women, and the film paints a picture where anything can happen almost. There seems to be some type of influence, and it really gives the movie a sense of, you can't tell what's going to happen. It's very not predictable in a way, because you just don't know what's real, what isn't. You know, how's it going to affect these 2 women? And are they under some type of influence? Are they not? What they're seeing real? And that's kind of your movie. To be honest, and I think it does have an air of eerie sort of ambiance, because, you know, you feel like you really don't know what these women are seeing is real, or, you know, is a figment of their imagination, or is some type of manipulation, or what could pop up at any moment, what dangers they're in. So you know, and there are some sequences that do feel, I wouldn't say necessarily scary, but uncomfortable. One of the things that this movie's paranormal force, be it a witch, be it some type of supernatural power or presence, it makes some people self-harm in a kind of trance almost. And they are kind of uncomfortable to watch. You know, it does a good job of making these sequences uncomfortable to watch. It's helped as well by I think some good kind of like musical swells that sort of, I think, do underscore this kind of level of kind of tension and unpredictability. And I would say on top of that as well, I think the performances are, you know, they're all pretty good. They're all fairly good. I mean, ultimately, we end up really focusing on two characters. But, you know, there's no clunkers, to be honest, in regards to the acting. Okay, so let's talk about what doesn't work in this movie. Now, I have to say, like with Monstrous, I feel people maybe a little bit feel they've been somewhat cheated in regards to what they might be expecting compared to what you might be receiving. So bear that in mind. But let's talk about the actual film that we have rather than what we wanted. Okay, so I think that the critique here is the premise seems stretched. Once we get into this cabin, we're pretty much there for the rest of the movie. And it's like, okay, we don't know what's real, you know, it's kind of like a battle of wills to a degree. And it's interesting for sort of 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But then it's like, so what else have you got to offer? And it doesn't really have much to offer, to be honest. I mean, there's always that underlying, you don't quite know what will happen because it's supernatural, anything could happen. But, you know, nothing really particularly sort of outside of the influence of this cabin really does. It's pretty much in here. And yeah, it's a lot of repeating the same beats, and it's like, okay, you know, yeah, okay, it's kind of like more of the same, and that's it. You know, that's the movie. So it ultimately becomes a movie that I was initially quite intrigued by. I think the premise was interesting. I thought the setup was good. You know, this storm, and then wow, you know, and we get this mysterious cabin. You know, but then you're sort of asking, okay, well, you know, who built this cabin? It's got all these card furnishings and stuff, and someone's obviously built it. I mean, how is it able to kind of like move and things and okay, whatever? This mobile phone that they seem to have, which has no signal, but they're kind of doing vlogs on and things, seems to have a never-ending battery. I mean, I'm recording with this video camera, and trust me, when you're recording video, it doesn't last long in regards to battery life. There's a few other elements that I feel were just kind of like, I don't want to spoil anything for you here, but there's, for example, other characters, I feel like they could have been a little bit more in regards to, see some other characters and their ultimate, what happened to them and their fate and things. I feel that was material left on the table, and instead we get kind of lots more sort of the same. And then what we do have, I mean, maybe it's budgetary reasons, but they sort of deliberately obscure shots at times. There'll be someone's like elbow in the way or stuff, or it'll be unfocused. So you don't really kind of see what's happening. And it's just like, it's a little bit frustrating. It's like, oh, okay. So you're kind of hiding the sort of more fantastical elements and things. And it's a bit like, you know, it feels a little bit of a cheat, I have to say. Ultimately, I think this movie runs out of steam at the end of the day. And then we get glimpses of, you know, a witch, and a kind of a bit of a backstory in regards to some kind of like exposition that we sort of find. But it's not really enough, I don't think. It's just it's too much time is kind of spent on the kind of the dynamic between these two characters, and not a lot else is in there. So again, a little bit like Monstrous. Overall, it's probably a slightly below average movie, if I'm honest. I think it starts off well, but it does sort of end up really not having many cards left to play. Kind of once you get sort of into the sort of the second half of the movie, ultimately. It's a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.